Why are you willing to show your face and talk about what you saw at Wounded Warrior Project?
Because as a warrior, I struggled with having my voice heard when I first retired from the Army. I struggled with a lot of things, understanding problems that I was having, understanding the issues, mental health, physical. I didn't know how to navigate the VA or any other system. I needed help, I needed a voice. And over time, I became my own advocate, became my own voice. You know, when I was hired by Wounded Warrior Project to be a Warrior Speak spokesperson, they always told me, be the warrior's voice. So that's why I'm here, to be the warrior's voice. They see what's going on, the lack of the impact of services, how the money's spent, or the lack thereof, the lack of care, and they see the claims that Wounded Warrior Project makes, that they're providing all these great and wonderful, impactful services and programs, when in fact they're really not. So I'm here to be those warriors' voice.
So, tell me your war experience real quick in a nutshell, like as much as you can.
I was deployed to Iraq twice, 2003, 2004, 2005, and 2006. I was a combat patrol leader. So I spent a lot of time working with the Iraqi government, Iraqi police, local nationals, local governments. I was also that guy that would knock on people's doors to discuss issues of freedom. I was awarded the Bronze Star, the Purple Heart, the Army Commendation Medal with Valor, as well as numerous other awards and decorations.
And what happened to you?
I was directly hit on my vehicle by 9 improvised explosive devices. 17 if you count the ones that went off either in front of the vehicle or behind it, but 9 direct hits.
How are you?
In the beginning, when I was medically retired in December of 2007, I was bad. And it wasn't the physical injuries that I suffered, it wasn't the spinal cord injury, it wasn't the knees, it wasn't the traumatic brain injury, it was the post-traumatic stress. It was not understanding why I wasn't the person I used to be, why I was angry all the time, why I would cry, why I couldn't be around people, why I was afraid to do things. And I just didn't understand it. I was suicidal. I was putting a gun in my mouth more than a spoon or a fork. I was drinking myself into oblivion every day to self-medicate. Thankfully, I never turned to drugs, but I abused alcohol because I just never understood what was going on. But my life turned around, and now I still struggle with the post-traumatic stress. And I'm not going to say I'm proud of that, but I am, because my experiences in combat have shaped me to be the man I am standing here today. Taught me to be a much better person and to be more receptive of people, and that everybody's different and everybody has their own battles that they're fighting, and not to be so judgmental and to listen. I always tell people, God gave me 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, so I can listen twice as much as I talk, but today I need to talk.
So what do you want people to know about Wounded Warrior Project?
It's an organization that is run with intimidation and fear. Not fear at the executive level, fear at the lower level, from the executive level. And they say that fish rots from the head down, and that's a true statement. They do provide programs and services, and I do believe to a certain extent that they have an impact. But that impact is very temporary. If you send a warrior on one of their Project Odysseys or one of their soldier rides or another event that they may have, that warrior may have already been in this really low place, and they're going to experience a high. But that high to you and me is a low, but for them it's a high. And that'll last a few days after the event is over, and then they crash. But there's no one there to help them, pick them up. There's no follow-up care, there's no case management. There's a saying at Wounded Warrior Project, warriors call us, we don't call warriors. And only that, the money. The great people of this country support the brave men and women who have sacrificed so much for their freedoms. And they donate to this organization. Donors don't want you to spend money that way. Donors want you to put that money towards that follow-up care, making sure that our brave men and women are taken care of. people who are donating that money, those are mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, grandparents, husbands, wives of someone that they know. They're family friends, people they know that have served. They're companies and corporations who entrust that money is being spent correctly, and it's not.
What are the examples you have of that?
Well, besides the all hands and the lavish spending, there is team building, which is really not team building. You should have a measurable outcome on team building. Team building is not bowling. Team building is not going to Sweet Pete's and having a nice lunch and a bunch of drinks. Team building is not hanging out at the bar, Wounded Warrior Project picking up the tab. It's not team building. You know, the end of the fiscal year while I was there, they hired a Mexican mariachi band, catered this big Mexican lunch. I found Wounded Warrior Project logoed maracas on my desk. Donors don't want that. That's not how money is supposed to be spent. A yearbook? They have a yearbook. A lot of us graduated high school a long time ago. We're all adults. We don't need a yearbook. I mean, look at technology. I have an iPhone. We don't need a yearbook, and donors don't want you spending money on a yearbook. Put that money to use. Help these warriors maintain that high that you set them up for before they crash. Don't let them crash. I mean, the 4 pillars at Wounded Warrior Project are mind, body, engagement, and economic empowerment. And I think they're all failures. I think that when you misuse funds and you don't provide that follow-up care and you mislead the American public saying that last year we served over 100,000 warriors. No, you didn't. You have 100,000 warriors in your database. And I talk to a lot of warriors, and they're disgusted by the way Wounded Warrior Project is run and how they spend the funds. And being a former staff member, that's one of the main reasons I left. I mean, there are other reasons, but that's the main reason. I couldn't be part of something that was so devastating to my family. Those are my brothers and my sisters. And to be a part of that as a veteran, it just made my stomach roll. And I'm actually disgusted with myself sometimes when I think back, or I see the commercial to know that I was a part of that. To me, it's fraud. It's lying. And they use their national campaign team, warriors that sign over all their rights, their likeness, their stories, their photos, and no compensation. The Wounded Warrior Project benefits from it, but the warriors don't. It's not right.
So when did you become disillusioned?
I was probably after working there about a little over a year, maybe 15 months in. I started to really see what was going on, and I was hearing things and I was seeing things. See, that's what makes it so much easier for me to come out in public, because I'm not making things up. I'm only saying what I know, what I've seen, and what I've heard. And what I've heard is from the executive level, director level, and above, sitting in meetings saying donors want us to do this. All hands, $2.5 million. Don't eat at a fast food restaurant. Donors want you to sit down at a nice restaurant. Don't stay at that hotel because donors don't want you to stay there. They want you to stay at this hotel even though it's $180 more a night. As a warrior, even though I was a staff member, I was trying to be so aware of how I spent money, and reprimanded at times for it.
Tell me about this credit card.
Every staff member at Wounded Warrior Project gets a SunTrust Visa card. The lowest level employee, which would be myself, $10,000 limit, and you're allowed to spend $5,000 without question on a warrior. So that's what they tell you. But if you spend any money on a warrior, you're reprimanded. Why did you do that? Why didn't you call this person? Why didn't you call that person? Don't do that again. But that's what it's for. Managers have a higher amount. Directors have an even higher amount. Executive vice presidents have even a higher amount. Chief of programs have obviously a higher amount. And it just goes.
So after an event, were you able to help a warrior? How would that work?
I never did. The one time I was going to, I was reprimanded. Actually, I was reprimanded twice because I should have been contacting somebody else, and that's not what my credit card was for. It's for my travel. And that's not what they say at Wounded Warrior Project. They They say you have the D, the decision making. You don't have a decision making. You have no power, no authority. You're just boots on the ground, making money for the machine.
Are you bitter?
I am not bitter at all. I'm upset. I have no axe to grind, but I'm upset on how the organization, its senior leadership, is taking advantage of my brothers and sisters, of my family, and their stories, their pain, everything that they've been through to make money. Because that money is not being put back where it belongs. If it was, I'd have no problems. And neither would all the warriors I've talked to. They'd have no issues. They've always asked, why don't they do follow-up care? I call them. I had a warrior tell me last week, I was in Orlando. I had a warrior tell me that he once called Wounded Warrior Project because he was afraid to drive to his appointments. Wounded Warrior Project told him, we don't do that. You gotta figure it out for yourself. But they have vehicles sitting in their parking lot. They have staff that could easily go pick that warrior up and take him to his appointment so he gets that care. In my previous job, my job right after Wounded Warrior Project, I worked with homeless veterans of all eras. I ran into a homeless veteran post 9/11, said he went to Wounded Warrior Project for help. They put him in a hotel for a couple nights, and that was it. It's not help. You have hundreds of millions of dollars and you put him in a hotel for a couple nights? There's no follow-up. And I'm lucky I found him. He's housed now. He's doing really well.
How would you describe the care that Wounded Warrior Project provides?
There isn't any. There isn't. There's fun events. That's about it. There are some peer-to-peer events. They have peer support groups, and those are great. But that's not professional help. And that only lasts so long and only goes so far. I mean, part of my recovery was using that peer-to-peer, and you get that interaction at the events. But you leave that event, you need more. You need that follow-up and that case management. Mental health is huge. And you look at Wounded Warrior Project's commercials, they use all severely disabled veterans. Over 1.5 million men and women have served this country in Iraq and Afghanistan. Yet, statistics show less than 50,000 are severely wounded and injured. So why are you using that small population? Why don't you use mental health? And if you talk to any one of those warriors, they're going to tell you that it's not the severe injury that they struggle with, that they need help with, because they can get a prosthetic leg or prosthetic arm, but no one can give them a prosthetic psyche. The Wounded Warrior Project will give them some swag with a nice Under Armour logo on it and their logo on it. But when you put that t-shirt on, it doesn't put a prosthetic psyche in your head. You're not going to find one in one of their nice little duffel bags or their Camelback water bottles or whatever else, their hats that they may send you or whatever else. You're not going to find it. You're going to find it through follow-up, case-managed care. And again, it's just the hard thing to do. We're doing the easy wrong over the hard right.
So would you describe it like wraparound care?
I would call it wraparound care. Yeah, I mean, their mission is to honor and empower wounded warriors, to foster the most successful generation of wounded or injured veterans in our nation's history. But the key word is foster. Foster means care, to take care of. And that's a hard thing to do. And they're not doing it.
Have you ever had any personal contact with Steve Nardizzi or the other guys at the top?
Oh, absolutely, all the time. I did a lot of events where I interacted with Al Giordano, Jeremy Schwat, Steve Nardizzi. Steve is a very narcissistic person. He can take whatever he wants and spin it and twist it and sell it. It's like a scheme. First, Adam Silva will get up and he'll talk and give some sad story about how he saw a warrior coming off a plane in Germany. And then Al Giordano gets up in front and offers out some tickets. So now the audience is primed. They've been crying. They have all the free stuff they could want. And then Steve gets up there and just spins away. I've seen it many times. You know, and like I said, over 1.5 million have deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan. How come Wounded Warrior Project struggles to get over 100,000 in their database? 1.5 million, and you're struggling to get 100,000 in your database. That's because veterans are a lot smarter than you think we are. We see things, we We hear things and we know things. Yes, we may have traumatic brain injuries, we may have physical injuries, and we have post-traumatic stress disorder. But I'll tell you what we're not is dumb. We see it, we hear it, and we talk to each other. Because there's one thing I'll never do is leave a brother or sister behind, and they all feel the same way.
So to be a Wounded Warrior Project alumni means what?
Nothing to me. I'm simply a name in their database. And I'm sure after this airs, there'll be backlash. And I'll get red flagged or removed from their database. And so be it. But I stand here speaking the truth. I'm going to go to bed tonight with a clear conscience. I'll get up tomorrow, look in the mirror, and be happy with the man I am. And I hope that my fellow warriors can find the strength to stand up and say something. And come forward. Because they've experienced it too.
Do you feel like they've become a machine, like you said, too big, too fast, too powerful?
I think they're very powerful. They're very lawsuit happy, and there's a fine line between their culture and a cult. And they're a cult. There's people tell you in their offices, drink the Kool-Aid, don't buck the system, because if you do, you're gone, and they will push you out. I've seen it. I've heard the executive vice president, my department, have one of her staff move to the Colorado Springs office and then find anything and everything nitpick to get her fired.
So is it a culture of fear that people work in?
It's an absolute fear. A lot of people work in fear. If they do something wrong, they're gone. And wrong meaning misspelling a word. I sat in on a conference call, the entire organization, Steve Nardizzi chewed the entire organization out because he released something publicly, and the word "you" was misspelled. And everybody felt the wrath. An individual made a mistake, may have cost the organization $5,000. They were fired. $5,000 to a multi-$100 million nonprofit. Suing a former employee, former staff member, who's also a veteran, for less than $10,000. She lost her home. You're suing one of the people you serve.
Are they lawsuit happy?
I believe so, but that was done with donor dollars. Do you think donors want you to sue that individual? I don't think so. You're suing small nonprofits because you feel you own the term Wounded Warrior. So you're suing nonprofits that are worth absolutely nothing. You spent more money to sue them than they're worth. Donors don't want you to spend money that way. Donors don't want you getting drunk. Donors don't want you having these lavish meals, staying in these big hotels, flying all over the country for no reason. I would not encourage anybody to donate to the Wounded Warrior Project. They used to be a grassroots organization, and they've gotten too big. And they've lost focus on what they're supposed to be doing.
Are they a charity bully?
I believe yes, they are. They absolutely are. If you're going to donate to a small, local veterans nonprofit. Help your local community. Do your research and help those in your community. If everybody does that, we will take care of all veterans, not just this generation, but all veterans, because all veterans need help.
I mean, yeah, when you hear the numbers, $300 million just a year ago. We're not even sure of the most recent number. So it went 2011, 70 million, then 140 million, then 200 million, then the next year 300 million, and Lord knows how much last year. That's like monopoly money.
It is. It's crazy. And it does not go into those programs and services. Granted, some of it does, yes. I'd like to know where the rest of it's going. But I do know. It's going to alcohol, those lavish hotels, those unwarranted team buildings, which is just a reason to get everybody together and party. I was part of it, and I'm ashamed to say that. But I'll be the first to admit it. I was part of it. So I've seen it. I've been there. It's donor money wasted.
Tell me about Warrior Speak and the training you went through. Were you ever asked to embellish your story or change your story?
The Warrior Speak training consisted of 3 weeks here in Jacksonville. At the time, I lived in Massachusetts, so I would fly down for a week. They put us up in a hotel, and they brought in some pretty well-known professional public speakers. Fly home for a week, fly back for a week, fly home for a week, and then the third week I was back here in Jacksonville. And during that whole time, we, as a group, there were approximately 10 of us, would tell our story. And the director, the manager, would constantly interrupt saying, "You need to say it this way." And there was one individual, and at the time I thought I was just being a pain in the butt. And he said, no, this is my story. I'm going to tell it my way. And I wish I would have followed his example. And he still does it to this day. He tells his story the way that he feels he should tell it. And unfortunately, I used the verbiage that they wanted me to use. I didn't twist any facts. I didn't make anything up. I just used the verbiage that they wanted me to use because we were always told it's not a fundraiser. But at the end of the day, if it's not a fundraiser, why are you tracking how much money Warrior Speaks bringing in? Why are you sending me to North Carolina to sit down with a donor who's willing to write a $500,000 check, but not until I talk to a warrior? If that's not fundraising, I don't know what is.
Were you told to try to make them cry for more money, or?
It was get the audience, take them low, start high, take them low, and end on a high note. So yes, it was exactly that. Without saying it, it was start high, take them low, and end high.
And then how would you ask for donations? Like,
I wouldn't. I would simply send them to the Wounded Warrior Project website, tell them there was a tab there, and if they wanted to give their time, talent, then they could. There's other ways that they could do whatever they felt was necessary. I'm not going to say what it is because I don't want to pitch it, because it's just not how I feel.
what do you think about the celebrities tied to the organization?
I think that those celebrities are doing the right things in their mind, and that's great. They want to help raise money for injured veterans. They appreciate the service. I don't think it's just a spot on TV. It's not a check the box. I think they really feel passionate about what they're doing, but don't have all the insight as to what's going on behind the scenes.
So Charity Watch rates Wounded Warrior Project a C. GuideStar gives them 3 out of 4 stars. What do you rate them?
I wouldn't even look at them. I'd just give them a complete F. Absolutely an F.
What do you want to see happen to Wounded Warrior Project?
I want to see them do what they say they're going to do. I want to see them bring somebody in, oversee, revamp those programs and services, and provide that wraparound care. Take those veterans, those warriors to their appointments. Provide that case management. Follow up with them. Help connect them to services. Not just the services that they provide or claim to provide, but services in their community so they can continue to get care. Because one event and that high that they leave on doesn't last forever. Someone needs to be there to catch them when they fall. When they crash, someone needs to be there.
So if a warrior was to call Wounded Warrior Project and say, I need help, would they get that help?
If I was to call Wounded Warrior Project's Resource Center right now, I'd probably go into a queue and someone would call me back. And if I needed mental health help, they would probably refer me to Give an Hour, which is a group of therapists, and they donated their time to combat veterans. They may, if I'm not enrolled as an alumni, they would definitely enroll me, provided that I give them the correct documentation. And they may send me to an email to maybe Combat Stress or the alumni team, the engagement team. But there's so many warriors, they can't do anything. You just fall through the cracks unless you're one of those severely wounded warriors. Those are the warriors that they do need, because those are the warriors that they have drinking their Kool-Aid that are going to make them money. And that is what I've heard from other warriors. I believe it, I've seen it, but I've heard that from other veterans, other warriors. People who are scared to come forward because they know that Wounded Warrior Project will probably sue them.
So finish the sentence for me. Wounded Warrior Project is?
Dysfunctional and dishonest.
Do you hope, what kind of impact do you hope this story has?
I hope that this story opens the eyes of a lot of people, mainly the donors. Because you can't waste money you don't have. And I hope it opens the eyes of the senior leadership to see that people aren't scared of them. I'm not intimidated by Steve Nardizzi. I'm not intimidated by his vast lawyer team, his law team. I'm not intimidated by anybody that works there. Matter of fact, I feel bad for those people that work there because they're dedicated. They believe in what they're doing.